Water back here. How's that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to take notes. If you want to take notes, go for it. I'm trying to record this. We'll see what happens. Most of the time, technology is not my friend. So, but if it goes through, I will send you guys a link to the recording as well. Okay, so you always have that to reference. There'll be some other stuff that we'll talk about that I'll send you after that. But yeah, so obviously here for the top 10 exercises for runners. If you guys end up looking like these two running, then we've met our goal. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that.
I got a long way to go.
Yeah. But cool. So we'll get started. So yeah, first off, thank you guys. Number one, thank you for supporting the local charity. So the admission fee that for tonight that is going to go to a charity. I'll be sending you guys an email tomorrow or the day after with a recap on everything, and one of those is going to be, we'll have a few charities that we'll kind of vote on for it, okay? So that piece, and then thank you obviously for being here, taking your time with us tonight, investing in your health and performance, especially when it comes to running. I'm sure that if you guys have not been injured or are not currently injured, you probably know somebody in your world that is injured, so it's a very prominent thing. So thank you for spending your time tonight, because I know you could be home, all cuddled up in a blanket. This is our 13-week-old. Okay, so, or 13 weeks, yes, yeah. Or you could be sitting on the couch with your best friend. That's our 3.5-year-old. Okay. Or here's our wild woman. She's our 2-year-old. She's nuts. So you guys will be seeing them a little bit more in the seminar as well. But yeah, again, thank you guys for being here. Okay, so over the next hour or so, we are going to be talking about why do runners get hurt a lot. Okay, we know a lot of runners. We know a lot of runners get hurt. And the common movement flaws and the injuries that come with running a lot, okay? How to optimally warm up for running and or training, okay? And again, those top 10 exercises for runners to help enhance performance but also mitigate that injury, okay? All right, so why do most runners get hurt? That's a question to you guys. Any thoughts? Just throw them out there.
They don't warm up.
They don't warm up. Okay, good one. I like that. Falling? Is that what you're
Story.
I can't help you with the contact injuries. Sorry, not that far. So warm up, falling. Anything else?
Glute strength.
Ooh, okay, we'll be talking some more about that. There we go. Anything else? Okay, the number one reason, they run a lot. Okay? Yeah, so if you guys run a lot, really, honestly, this whole seminar could be over if you guys just stop running. Now, I know most of you will flip me the bird, okay, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, okay? But honestly, yeah, so running is very repetitive, high-impact activity, right? And when we have any movement flaws, weaknesses, or inefficiencies and compensations, they're going to be exacerbated by that, okay? So we're going to try to talk about how do we limit that, okay? All right, so the first issue, core, okay? This is going to be a big one. One of the biggest philosophies we have here at the Athletic Way is really trying to hone in core, what does it mean, how to get it strong, how to get it active, okay? Because the biggest core weakness is instability. Okay, so yes, you can have a weak core, you can also have a very unstable core, so something that moves around a lot. Okay, and we're going to talk about this more. The big thing, core strength and stability creates a stable pelvis. Okay, so your pelvis or hip. Everything below that is dependent on your pelvis and hip. So if that is moving around a lot, then everything else below that is compromised. Okay. Again, you've got the base, the pelvis is the base of hip, knee, ankle, foot, all the joints below, again, where we commonly see injuries on runners. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to kind of break down core into 3 main components, what we call anti-extension, anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion. Okay, we're going to go through these guys and obviously explain some more. So when we can't control extension, we get what we call excessive pelvic anterior tilt. Okay, so the picture on the left there with the red ring, that is an anterior pelvic tilt. So his pelvis is tipping forward. Okay, obviously the right side is neutral. That's where we want to be. Most of us do not lie there. Okay, that's what the training is trying to do when we do something here. Excessive anterior pelvic tilt can lead to some back compression and pain. Okay, so right away, I mean, we might have guys stand up here in a little bit, but that position there, most of us do that. Like, that doesn't feel very good. There's some compression in that back right away. Okay, now put that in with your running. You're going to get compression over miles, days of miles, weeks of miles, months, years of miles. Okay, constant hamstring tension. Okay, so your hamstring attaches to your ischial tuberosity, your sit bone, comes down, attaches to your distal leg. If it's attached to that pelvis, it's like a rubber band. You can think about an elastic. If I tip that pelvis anteriorly, now I'm stretching that elastic. Okay, so if I walk around like that or I run like that, I'm getting more tension to that hamstring. Okay, so that's a hamstring strain. Okay. Let's just do that again. And then glute shutdown and lack of force production into the ground. Okay, so glutes, again, we're going to talk crazy amount about glutes here in a little bit, and lack of force production in the ground. If our goal is to run forward somewhat quickly or not so slow, I know Bunny likes that. I don't go fast, I just don't go as slow as I used to. We need to put force in the ground to propel ourselves forward, okay? And with an anterior pelvic tilt, we can't put as much force into the ground, okay? So, standing hip, anterior posterior tilt. Actually, yeah, why don't we all stand up real quick here, okay, just so we go through this. And most of us, we got two guys here. Guys, we usually suck at this anterior pelvic tilt stuff. The ladies are usually pretty damn good at this. So, but anyway, what we're trying to do, hands on hips here. Think about your zipper dropping towards the floor. Okay, that's anterior pelvic tilt. Okay, anybody feel like compression in their back right now at all? A little bit. Okay, we want to use our obliques. We're going to talk about more about that to pull our pelvis up underneath this. Okay, that's posterior pelvic tilt. We don't want to go past neutral, but we want to get to neutral, and then we want to be able to work around that. Okay? So honestly, I've fixed a ton of back pain just by showing somebody neutral pelvis and be like, stay there. Like, stop moving around out of that position, stay there and try to do some stuff. Okay? So, but it's just showing you where that pelvis can go. Okay? A lot of us live in the anterior pelvic tilt, we want to try to get to neutral. Okay? All right, cool, thank you.
So that's an injury for male, you said?
No, males just usually, honestly, we suck at knowing where our hips are.
Oh,
Okay? So when I try to get a male to show me anterior, posterior pelvic tilt, they're like they don't know what's going on. Most ladies are like, very easy, okay? All right, awesome. Okay, so anti-extension, okay? All right, anti-rotation. So again, I should tell you, anti-extension, your ability to prevent this, okay? Anti-rotation, your ability to prevent rotation is what we're about to talk about, okay? Because when we can't control rotation, we get excessive rotation at the pelvic hip region again, okay? So if you look at this picture, probably two very fast runners, but they're crazy out of alignment right now, okay? You see that rotation? So again, if they are not hurt, they will likely be hurt at some time. And even though as fast as they probably are, they could probably be faster if they could control that rotation. Okay? Because excessive rotation leads to, again, low back rotation. So your lumbar spine, guys, your L1 through 5 S series down here, we have like 1 to 2 degrees of rotation, okay, that we should be getting from those vertebral segments. What happens a lot is we get massive amounts of rotation at that segment. Rotation where it shouldn't happen causes friction, friction causes breakdown. Okay, and that's why we get a lot of rotational pain in our low back, because we move too freely through that low back, actually. Okay, and the issue is a lot of times, and this is kind of going off track a little bit, most of the time when we have a stiff back, what do we try to do? Try to rotate, stretch, like, do all this bending stuff. We're actually likely irritating that tissue even further. Okay, again, it depends on who we are and what we have going on, but we'll see that a lot of times if we try to create more motion where we shouldn't. Okay. Hip shift, okay, so we're going to talk about this actually in the very next slide, but if your hip rotates, it also kind of shifts out of alignment here, okay, so there's a lot of things that happen down the chain when your hip shifts, so we'll talk about that in a second. You get that glute shut down again, so your glutes don't work because your pelvis is out of position, your glutes work best when the pelvis is in a neutral position. And you get that lack of force going forward, okay, so if I'm trying to go forward as fast as I can when I run, and I have rotational forces going side to side, I'm not getting all the force I can to the ground and going forward, okay, so again, there's the performance side of it. I'm just going to show you this one. If you guys want to get down the floor, go for it, absolutely. The bird dog, I'm sure you guys have seen this or done this yourself. The big thing with the bird dog though, so trying to find pelvic neutral, right? So not extension, not flexion, but trying to find neutral. And then my goal would be, this is the cue that we use a lot in our training, imagine a glass of water on that back, don't spill that glass of water. Okay, that's a simple cue, an external cue. And I'm going to go opposite and opposite leg. Okay, so what we see a lot of times is we see this, okay? You come back, you see kind of this hip shifting side to side. So your goal would be, can I get that pelvic neutral, lock that position, get there, don't let that back shift side to side. Okay, that's just a super simple one to kind of give yourself a little bit of an idea on hip rotation. Okay, so if you feel that hip shifting side to side, or have, if you guys have young kids, go ahead, ask them to put a glass of water in your back, okay, have some fun with it. Don't use any precious liquids, no wine, beer, no, you don't want to spill that, okay. But that's just a little simple kind of explanation on the rotation there. Okay. This last piece, so the anti-lateral flexion. When we can't control lateral flexion, we get excessive hip shift. So here's this hip shift again. So what we can see in this diagram, you can see this athlete's left hip way out of position, out to the side. So he gets this pelvic drop on one side, this pelvic hike on the other. Okay. Then you can reference, look what happens down the chain. Okay. So his femur is now in, his foot is now flatter, so he gets a bunch of stuff happening down the chain. Okay. So that excessive hip shift, again, here's that low back. So your QL guys, your quadratus lumborum, it's a muscle on the bottom quadrant here. When I have this hip hike, I get a lot of tension here, I get a lot of compression on one side. Okay, so again, if I'm running, every time I strike the ground, like this guy here, if I run my hip shifts out every single time, again, we're trying to exacerbate what's going on, over miles, again, it's boom, 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 right on that QL, okay, that low back. With that, you also get that knee coming in. So knee valgus is a collapse inward, okay? You have meniscus that lie on each side of that, so you're getting compression on one side, you're getting a kind of a stretch tension on the other, okay? You can break down that tissue over time, okay? IT band irritation, anybody, IT band syndrome, you know, it's not a syndrome, okay? But IT band irritation, again, if I get hip shift out, and I'm putting tons of tension on that IT band over the course of, again, miles, okay? That can lead to calf pain, okay, so your calf's kind of overworked. Foot pronation, plantar fascia. Anybody? No? Really? Okay, that's usually a very common one. But anyway, when that foot flattens out, that fascia muscle on the bottom of the foot takes a lot of pressure, okay? So we get irritated there. Okay, glute shut down, lack of force into the ground. Okay, so again, glutes, lack of force in the ground. Okay. All right, so standing lateral hip shift. We'll give you guys that one more time, okay? Just to kind of show this position. Okay. So a lot of times, honestly, balancing is just kind of hard for some of us anyway. You can use your chair, okay? But if I'm on a single leg and we have this hip shift out, that's usually, again, that's kind of how some of us strike the ground, okay? So as I run, I get this kind of boom, this hip shift side to side, called Trendelenburg, is actually what it's called. But we're trying to think about, can I come out, and then can I pull myself back into a neutral position, okay? So go ahead and try that. Kind of let that hip shift out, no good, hip shift in, okay? And when we do that, if you're trying to drive from this hip, sometimes we'll actually feel that glute turn it on for us, okay? So then, in that regard, what we would do from a training aspect, if we were lunging, stepping up, stuff like I'm doing here, we are always trying to maintain pelvic neutral, and that glute fires for us. Okay, a lot of times when we train without an eye on us, we will fall into this position, and then we'll end up just kind of actually reinforcing the bad stuff. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Make sense so far? Yeah. All right, cool. So this is actually, so Suzanne, who actually, she was the one that helped me out, kind of put a little blurb out into the running group. I think the majority of us are from that right now here. Just to read this out real quick. Something really cool for any runners in the group. I've been running for 25 plus years. My shoes have been always clipped my inner ankles, especially during long runs and races. I realized about a week ago that since I've been working at TAW, I haven't clipped my ankles anymore. I have 400 plus miles on the gray shoes, almost no signs of wear, pretty neat. Okay, so what's really cool is that Suzanne came in, again, very dormant glutes. They weren't kicking on for her the way we needed, okay? She would strike, she would shift, and then as she was coming through with that back leg, she always clip her ankles. Anybody else ever experienced that? Clipping on the ankles? No? Okay. Yeah, we only did one thing. Anyway, what that shows though, again, not only is she keeping her shoes better for longer, but she's also getting more force in the ground and not getting as much force into that hip in an irregular way. Okay, so now she's actually limiting injury, but also enhancing her performance. She also, I don't think I put it here, she also ran her fastest half marathon in like 4 or 5 years, okay? And again, it's pretty cool because we haven't really done anything crazy. We got a core going, we got a glutes going for her, okay? She's still doing the running. I don't touch the running aspect of that, okay? Anything over 100 meters, honestly, I'm sorry, but like, unless I'm chasing down food or somebody's like trying to like threaten my life, after 100 meters, I'm like, hey, you win, yeah.